honest truth.
Met Benito Vergotine. Smile 90.4 FM.
Joining us this evening to elaborate on how South African companies could empower their efficiency by shifting their focus to augmenting an authentic change in leadership is founder and chief executive officer at LeadMe, Jackie Kennedy. Jackie, good evening and thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, Benito. Thank you so much for having me this evening.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So, in the context of our country's unique challenges, how do you see the role of change leadership in addressing issues such as load shedding and the quiet quitting trend?
Okay, great. Thanks, Benito. I think change leadership becomes crucial in addressing these issues beyond the operational and structural changes such as
recording in progress.
Strategies to minimize the impact of load shedding, such as investing in alternative power sources, optimizing energy usage, and developing contingency plans. Change leadership is actually about building the capacity and resilience to navigate and understand this change at scale and for the long term. And I think what we all know that saying, right, that change has always been around, or that rather that change is the only constant. And I think the reality is that it's actually our ability to lead ourselves and others through the rapid pace of change. And that is what we are needing to create the capacity to get through at all levels within organizations. So if you think about quiet quitting, for example, what you will see there is that this is actually a result of employees not feeling potentially heard or seen or being acknowledged, or there's a lack of connection between their role, their skills, and the purpose of their role or the purpose of the organization, and they're lacking a sense of belonging. And what it actually comes down to is a failure partly in leadership or partially by the individual. And what we're talking about here is a set of skills that enable these individuals to enable leaders to lead through these times and to be able to work through individuals during challenging times, or for individuals to be able to lead themselves through these times. So what I mean by this is that if we take a bit of a deep dive into what it takes to navigate an environment like this, we need leaders who firstly understand employees' needs, and they're engaging with their teams and their people to understand reasons for disengagement, lack of motivation, the impact of these challenges in their environment, the change up of their environment and circumstances. We need to be able to understand the psychological association of change. Many people avoid change. They have fear of change. A change creates a stress response. It initiates social triggers within the individual, and it's really their ability to manage this and to lead through it and to overcome it. So this ability of the leader to understand this environment and to embrace this, to take everybody with them, to make sure that they're putting in the right conditions to enhance employee engagement, to understand where they're coming from, to understand the strain and stress involved with these challenges, but also to be able to provide ongoing work-life balance. But most importantly, their ability to develop the capacity within the individual to be able to navigate these ongoing changes. And that's really coming down to a set of soft skills around resilience and emotional intelligence. And sometimes we think about emotional intelligence as something as simple as just communication or managing one's emotions, but it's a whole range of skills that enable us to be able to be resilient during change. And it's really the backbone of effective communication, which is critical to leading through challenging times. It's an orientation towards understanding the social dynamic, empathy, social responsibility, what's happening, being able to make effective decisions. It's the backbone of stress management. So it's the ability to be flexible, for optimism, for stress tolerance, etc. So it's really the backbone of the ability to navigate these changing times. And so change leadership empowers organizations to build that resilience and that capacity to get through these challenges.
Jackie Kennedy is founder and chief executive officer at LeadMe, joining us in the conversation this evening. You're welcome to share your thoughts too on 0829 904 904, putting the spotlight on how companies can empower themselves with authentic change leadership. The World Economic Forum projects a significant shift in essential job skills by 2025. So how does this important change leadership also become a strategic imperative for organizations to stay ahead in preparing their teams for the anticipated skills landscape?
So the key here is that organizations need to be thinking about how their organization is going to evolve and what skills will be needed to not only keep up with the rate of change, but to get ahead. And this really requires a process of connecting the dots between the organizational strategic planning, tech innovation, process changes, but together with the individual readiness and leadership traits. So what we're looking at here, to break it down a bit further, is really a connection around people, process, and technology. And how do we bring these three things together? It's about strategic workforce planning. So that's looking at the objectives and the workforce capability. And it's really understanding that and anticipating and identifying the future skills needed. But it's also about doing a gap analysis to see what the difference is and planning around the workforce. It's about fostering a culture of continuous learning in order to have individuals that are ready to take on this learning and are continuously upskilling themselves. It's about promoting a culture of agility and flexibility. And it's really looking into how do you foster an environment that facilitates cross-functional collaboration and innovation. And there's so much more that we can get into there.
It seems that's what you spoke of, that continuous learning, the agility and flexibility, particularly with what so many are anxious about with this rapid advancement of AI. Change leadership then becomes important for organizations to be able to adapt, and not only adapt, but thrive within this ever-changing landscape.
Absolutely. And I think the reality is that the key here, in order for organizations to truly be able to embrace this level of change and to adapt and thrive, is that ultimately organizations need to realize that it's one thing to have the tech and process in place, and you can have all the best technology and strategy in place. But if you don't have a team of individuals that are wanting to come on board with this change, to embrace it, to go the mile, and to really get excited about it, then you are going to have a problem ultimately. And I think this is the piece in the puzzle that is so often missed. It's that ability to build this capacity within your organization of a workforce that are truly excited about change, that they're curious about opportunities, they're constantly looking to improve, they are resilient, they can manage their stress, they can collaborate and work across departments, they are able to engage in healthy conflict and debate. And it's about this ability to see failure as an opportunity to learn. And ultimately, what I'm talking about is the culture of an organization. And without, I kind of hate the saying that gets thrown around so often that culture will eat strategy for breakfast, right? But ultimately, it really will. Without a workforce willing and able to continuously embrace change and lead themselves, your best strategies and most innovative systems are dead in the water. We've all seen it 1,000 times. Individuals can be very resistant to change. There can be a culture of negativity, of really kind of halting the system. So organizations have to think about who are their custodians of change. What is the culture of their organization? What are the values and beliefs that are shaping, values and behaviors and beliefs for that matter, that are shaping the way people think? Are we hiring the kind of people that are going to want to innovate, to upskill, to continuously learn? How are we rewarding that behavior, and how we are thinking about the attitude and that will set us up for success, because the skills are something that we can ultimately develop over time and can continuously be looking for. But we need the right openness to change with the diversity of thought and the willingness to go there. So it's really about cultivating that ability within not just the old school thoughts around tenure and title around leadership, but this idea that everybody needs agency. Every individual in your organization needs to be able to lead from their place within the organization. Out of gone are the days of tenure and title and hierarchical structures. We're really seeing more and more flat structures where everybody's needing to be able to lead from their position. And we need to develop a set of skills and readiness. And that's really about a set of soft skills around resilience, around stress management. In actual fact, it's in the top set of skills. If you look at the top 10 skills for 2025, you'll see that leadership is one of the top skills there, but around that is problem solving, critical thinking, adaptability, stress and resilience. All of these are soft skills. So it's not just about the critical hard skills. We need those, and we need technology and process, but ultimately we need to develop the capacity within our employees to not only lead change within the organization, but within themselves too.
How does an organization ensure, in fact, that they have that leadership that you spoke of to enable to build that capacity, to be able to build that resilience and to develop those set of skills which are required for the modern era?
Absolutely. Well, firstly, organizations obviously need to be investing in their leadership at all levels throughout their organization. So I think it's one thing to have that capacity within, say, your executive team, but and that team is critical to setting the vision, setting the strategy, to leading from the front, leading by example, being openness, showing the key behaviors, right? So they need to be continuously learning. They need to be have that openness to change. They need to be shifting the status quo. They need to be bringing people with them. But what we're really talking about is that if you really want a bottom-up, top-down shift, you need to bring everybody with. And that's a process of putting the right training in place and really thinking through, how do we look at each individual within our organization? How do we do a skills gap analysis, not just around the hard skills, but the soft skills? How do we tailor the right personal development plan for each of our individuals within our organization that connects their personal development with their career goals, the soft skills that are required in order for them to come on this journey with us, to set them up for success, but ultimately to set the organization up for success. And I think this is the piece that's so often missed, and that's coming back to that idea of quiet quitting. When all of this is not in place, and we cannot have people leading from their positions within the organization, instead you have disengagement. But if we get this right and we spend the time developing everybody across our organization to be able to lead from their position, so not just the key executive leadership team, it's gone with the days. You need that visionary strategic leadership, don't get me wrong, but you need capacity at every level within your organization. You need that agency within every individual to be able to take the lead in their own role and in their own lives, which directly impacts the organization and their ability to manage their stress, their well-being, their resilience, and their capacity to feel psychologically safe in the environment, to embrace the change, to make mistakes, to keep learning, to keep going, and ultimately embrace technology. And that in itself will create a bottom-up, top-down shift in the culture, the attitude, the common language, and the willingness to shift with the organization, to grow in a safe space, and to all be working in the same direction.
Will this, lastly, Jackie, enable organizations to be able to adapt their strategies, to stay agile, to be responsive to evolving dynamics within the market?
Absolutely. This is the key to it, right? If we've got a workforce or a team of that is clear on the vision, has been knows that it's a safe environment to innovate, to embrace technology, to use data to make decision making, that continuous learning is something that's valued throughout the organization. It sets up the right environment for success, right? And if the organization is continuously looking ways to be customer centric, to be employee-centric, to be human-centered, and looking for ways to really experiment and play, looking for opportunities for collaboration, encouraging collaboration, encouraging this kind of communication and scenario planning. Then we're setting up the right conditions for success, and we are developing, or we are empowering our team with the capacity, not only the skills to embrace rapid change, but the resilience to work through the difficult times. But ultimately, we're also creating an environment and a culture that invites and rewards and recognizes the right behaviors that can transform and embrace and adapt and ultimately thrive in constant change.
Jackie Kennedy, founder and chief executive officer at Lead Me. Appreciate you joining us this evening, Jackie. It's been incredibly inspiring. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights.
Absolute pleasure, Benito. Thank you so much for having me this evening.
Smile. 90.4 FM.